The dialogue that's happening, I think, not even nationwide, but worldwide around policing and defund policing. And so, I do have a couple of comments that I can give you about that. I think if I'm looking at it, and obviously all of my comments are going to be in the context of Regina and our local community. That's what I know. I can't speak to what's happening elsewhere in Canada or the United States. But here, our funding at the Regina Police Service is predominantly provided through the City of Regina. So we are funded in a large part by the municipality. We do get, however, a fairly large chunk of funding as well from the provincial government. So those are the two main sources of funding for our police service. And while we put together a budget based on the needs of our organization, obviously we're not involved in approving what our budget is. And so the budget, the decisions that are made around budget and funding are decisions that are made both at the local municipal level with City Council and also with the provincial government. Most of the funding we receive through the provincial government has to do with initiatives that we're working on in terms of building community safety that line up with pillars and strategies that the provincial government also has. So knowing that we don't determine what our funding is and we don't make decisions around increases or decreases to funding, what I will talk about, I think, is understanding what's the root of the discussion that's going on right now. The events that happened on May 25th that I think brought this important issue to the forefront, and one that we're all talking about, is full of emotion and anger and frustration and a whole bunch of different emotions. But understanding that when we're talking about something like defunding police, I think it probably breaks into two categories when we're trying to get at what is being talked about here. And one is whether or not we have appropriate levels of police accountability. And I think the discussion around police accountability is an important one, because this loud voice that we're hearing in our community and throughout the world right now is stepping up against police brutality, not against police. And I think that's an important distinction for us to make. And so understanding that the need for oversight is, to me, a fundamental, basic principle in bringing together trust and confidence in a community and its police service. And so our police service, like any police service in Saskatchewan, is very positive about police oversight. I've had recent conversations with the provincial government, and I know that they are very close to unveiling a new form of provincial oversight that will be present in our province. I don't know the full details of it, but I am excited to work with the province on that, and I think that's a very positive step forward. So I think that's one part of the dialogue. The other part of the dialogue is, are police services doing something now that they shouldn't be doing? Are we involved in something that is not necessarily a police issue? Are we involved in something that's more of a social justice issue in our community? Well, I'll be shocked if any of you in this room haven't heard me talk about the need to work together on social justice issues. I've thrown out numbers anywhere between 2/3 and 4/5 of the work that our police service does has nothing to do with the Criminal Code of Canada. Most of what we do has to do with social justice issues, social determinants of crime, social determinants of healthcare, those types of issues. Mental health, addictions, domestic conflict, gang issues. Those are rooted in what I would say are more social focused issues. And so, is there someone else that can do some of that work? Yes, there is. There is absolutely the ability for police not to respond to all of the calls that we go to, and someone better equipped to handle what is the root cause of the problem. And our police service, as you're probably aware, is involved in a large way with at-risk youth, with people that suffer with mental illness, people that suffer from addictions, domestic conflict, sexual violence. That type of collaborative work is going on within grassroots organizations in our city, within provincial government and provincial organizations, and we are continuing to be committed to that. TRIP, PACT, gang strategy, all of that work, our school resource officers, is focused at trying to build partnerships that gives the people the power and the ability to deal with social issues in a way that they can do so better than we can as a police service. Oftentimes those social issues manifest themselves that we step in at times when they've reached a crisis. So how can we deal with these types of issues in our community? These issues that are at the root of so many of our problems, even our crime problems, rooted in social issues. How can we deal with them in a way that's effective and efficient and a way that provides meaningful and healthy relationships in our community going forward? So we need to look at ways that we can work with community partners. The challenge is that that work is not short-term work. I've spoke with other community leaders. Chief Cadmus Delorme just did an interview this weekend about some of the work that he is involved in and that he is doing that he hopes over the next 30 to 50 years will make long-term meaningful change. This type of work is slow, methodical, resource heavy, and so we need to find ways that we can get that work done in our community, but it shouldn't have to be an either-or conversation. So the conversation around funding the police shouldn't be that we have to defund police in order to better fund other work that's being done. Police in our community are busy. Our police service is extremely busy. Our crime rate and our crime per capita in Saskatchewan and in Regina is one of the highest in Canada. And yes, it goes right back to those social justice issues that I've talked about, but that presence and that need for our police officers to be able to do this meaningful work in our community is not going to go away. And so we have to find a way that we can do both. Oftentimes, when we're digging into mental health or addiction type issues, that funding won't come from the City of Regina. So the City of Regina doesn't really have the ability to take the funding, say, from police and put it into mental health, because mental health falls under the Saskatchewan Health Authority, which is provincially funded. So that dialogue can get quite blurry, but I firmly believe it's not an either-or discussion. It is a both. And over time, as we make meaningful change within our community, if we dig into social issues and put systems in place that truly make a difference, then obviously the positive spin-off effect of that is that there is less need for police to be responding to these types of calls. And that's a very positive thing.